All right, welcome and thank you for joining us. This is our first session of our new Career Edge webinar series created by our Business School Alumni Network. Through this four-part series, we are looking to provide you with a look at current industry trends and what you can do to capitalize on them. Today's session, we will be focusing on the Denver metro area industry landscape. What's hot? This session will end at approximately 12:45. And before we start, I want you all to know we have time allotted at the end for questions and answers. So please utilize the Q&A function on your screens to submit any questions, and we will get to as many as possible. My name is Matt Fleming. I'm a business school alumni, class of 2013, 11-month MBA, as well as MS Finance in 2016. I currently work for the business school as program manager for the JP Morgan Center for Commodities, and I'm happy to be moderating today's session. Now I'd like to introduce our two presenters. I have with us today Holli Riebel as the Chief Operating Officer of the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce, and Lisa Hough as the Manager of Strategic Initiatives for the Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation, which we'll be using EDC as an acronym for that going forward. Welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So real quick, just an overview of their organizations. The Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce is celebrating their 150th anniversary year this year. With over 3,000 member companies, they are the leading voice for Colorado's business community. An interesting bit of history, the Chamber was formed around the goal of bringing a railroad spur to Denver. And we, of course, all know the economic impact the railroad had in the mid-1800s and continues to have today. Next, the Metro Denver EDC is an affiliate of the Chamber and works in partnership with every city, county, and economic development group in the area. They provide a wealth of information for companies and site selectors. And then finally, when we talk about the Denver metro area, I have a map here on the screen, which includes the 9 counties that are included, which contains over 3 million people. And this map was pulled directly from the EDC website. So, Holli, Lisa, please tell us a little bit more about yourselves and how you got to where you are.
Sure. Hi, welcome everyone. As Matt said, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Denver Metro Chamber, and I actually am a graduate alum of CU Business School. Ooh, yeah. Go Buffs! And
go Lynx, you mean?
Go Lynx! Sorry, I went bold actually. So I had a degree in business, and from there, actually, I was interesting because I had a background actually in some entrepreneurial business classes that I took, which actually led me, and this is the way life works, I just kind of fell into an economic development job and also in sales. And so from there, because economic development incorporates a lot of research and data. So I had kind of that technical background, and I also had marketing and sales. And then, so from there, that kind of led me into this economic development job, which is about creating jobs in a region. And I didn't even realize what economic development was at the time when I graduated from college. And so from there, though, I've actually got into working economic development for 25 years. And for working for this chamber now, it's been about 7 years in a new capacity as head of operations. And that's because I've worked with a lot of smaller nonprofit economic development organizations where I had to run the operations of the organization. So it just goes to show you a lot of different skill sets can lead you to a lot of different opportunities.
Yeah, great.
For sure, because I think you never know exactly what your path is going to be. And I think that's really important. And, I'm currently with the Metro Denver EDC as the manager of strategic initiatives, but I came to Colorado for law school. And I soon learned that I love policy more than litigation. So while in school, I really took advantage of trying different avenues here in the Denver metro region and interned quite a bit at a variety of organizations, from the federal government to nonprofits to companies. And what I realized eventually when I graduated, that I decided, although I loved working in the nonprofit world, I needed to go the corporate path for a while, pay off those student loans, as everybody knows. But through the corporate world, I took the opportunity to really get involved in telecommunications here in the region, which was a strong area when I graduated. And working there in influencing policy and learning about the regulatory structures and really shaping policy both in Colorado but regionally, I got to really know a lot more about how business works. And telecom, of course, went through a lot of mergers and acquisitions and changes, but I was always learning more about different areas of the business. But eventually I decided to switch industries, and the skills you learn in policy and in relationships and in how to influence people, you could use in other industries. So it's always important to have those basics. And I decided to go into energy, and I worked here for one of the largest energy producers in the world, actually, based in, that has offices here in Colorado. And I continued to keep learning new things. I learned about community investments. I learned about working with the media. And I think it's interesting because if I look back X number of years ago, and I started law school reading constitutional law, I never would have thought that I'd be in this position now. So I think it's really interesting of how that's evolved. And, I decided to join the Metro Denver Economic Development Corporation because I really wanted to support the Colorado region and kind of give back at this point in my career, because I've met so many wonderful people and built a great network that right now it's really an exciting time in Colorado with all our growth, and talk about bringing new companies and new jobs and new opportunities here, because it's changed so much in the past 20, 30 years.
It's interesting, Lisa, because usually when you're looking at your job career, your job path, it's never a straight line. It's always kind of a zigzag. And as you start to develop more competencies or skill sets, your new doors open, and so you have new opportunities, and then you kind of jump into that, and then it gives you some more skill sets, and then you say, oh, this is kind of interesting. And what's important is that you're constantly learning, and then you're following your heart, you're following your passion. So.
Yeah, following your heart and having a job which makes you happy is such a great opportunity, or great thing in life.
Lifelong learners and transferable skills.
That's right.
Very nice.
Absolutely.
Great. So we're going to go into the meat of today's presentation, discussing Metro Denver's top industries. So by way of overview, I know it's not a surprise to anyone listening here today, but Colorado as a whole and Denver has really been in the midst of some unprecedented growth. Here's some high-level numbers on the screen. Colorado has seen an increase of over 250,000 jobs since 2011, close to 400,000 people, which averages about 5,000 per month, and makes us the second fastest growing state in the union. We have a current unemployment rate of 2.7, which is nicely below the national average of 4.1. And of course, the median home price has increased along with that, with a 62% increase over that time period.
So we're going to go through, we're going to tell you about a little bit because of that. You just mentioned the growth we've had, and it really has been strategic. I think everybody used to think of us in the 70s, kind of the energy town.
And Cowtown.
and Cowtown, exactly. But we really have diversified our economy, and I think that's why it's become such an amazing place to locate to. And so Lisa's going to walk us through a little bit on some of the industry clusters, and I'll kind of join in and we'll talk about what's going on.
No, that's great. When we look from an economic development perspective, we've identified the top 9 industries that really have strong growth, strong employment numbers, and strong salaries, frankly, and job opportunities here. So the 9 clusters that we look at are aerospace, which actually ranks number 2 behind California. I mean, we're a mile closer to space, so that's really helpful. And when we look at aviation, and it's not just all the operations and workers at Denver International Airport, but we also have many aircraft manufacturers and air transportation services. Beverage production, from beer to the nation's largest herbal tea manufacturer. When we look at bioscience, we include both medical devices and pharmaceuticals. Broadcast and telecom, which includes phones and cable providers. Again, we have a great geographic location for that, and we'll talk a little bit more about the details in a minute there. And energy, we look at a balanced energy economy. Holli is right. Back in the 70s, we were so focused on traditional fossil fuels and mining and oil and gas. But now when you think of Colorado, we think about the amazing federal labs with all this research in renewables and alternative fuels and the National Wind Center. Energy is really, that's something that we take a lot of pride in Colorado, to have that balanced energy economy. Financial services, again, we'll dive deeper in a moment, but it's very strong and a growing sector in our region. Health and wellness is one of our largest employee bases in the region. And most people, they might not realize, but we have the nation's largest medical-related redevelopment project with the combined campuses out at Fitzsimmons and Anschutz. And again, IT software, we'll dive into that a little bit more. Holli, I'll take that on in a minute. So just to show you some of the top industry statistics, and I'd like to reference our website where we do these detailed industry cluster studies every year. So I know we'll be sharing that website later in the presentation, but I encourage anyone who's interested in going quite a bit deeper on any of these clusters, that we have a lot more information on our website. Information like this that we track every year. The number of employees, the energy industry employs over 66,000 workers. That's a combined earning of $6.5 billion. Statewide, that's about $14 billion annually for other indirect workers in our industry and direct workers. As I mentioned, beverage production from beer to tea, there's about 210 companies and a strong growth rate of 28.8% over the past 5 years. Broadcast and telecom, we're ranked number 5 in the country for employment because one of the reasons is our location offers just a one bounce for satellite connectivity to locations around the world, all 6 continents. So it's really a big hotspot for that.
And one of the reasons why finance is so big here too, because you can contact Japan and New York and Europe at the same time. So.
Well, that's great for almost any industry because as someone said to me recently, you can have a conference call with Germany in the morning and China in the evening. Yeah. That makes a really long day, but it's nice to be able to do that from our location. So as I mentioned, financial services has really been growing in our area. And when we talk about that, it's not just investment services, it's also banking and finance and insurance. We've seen a strong growth rate over the past 5 years of about 22.1%. And growing companies, some major companies in our region are involved in the Colorado Investment Services Coalition. Those include employers like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, Janus Henderson, TIAA, T Rowe, and Empower Retirement. Those are all very strong companies that are really looking for talented students and not just recent grads. They're looking for mid-career people as well. I think it's a great industry for as Holli mentioned, for our region, because you can also hit coast markets on both coasts from Colorado. I don't know if there's anything else, Holli, on financial services that you've seen some changes there.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because we always were known as the Wall Street of the West, and that's like even past in the 70s or so, and it's just amazing. And then it kind of took a dive, and then now all of a sudden financial services is really big here now, and so it's probably one of our strongest industry sectors that are really growing, lots of jobs. Like you said, in terms of Charles Schwab and Fidelity and a variety of different big companies that everyone sees now. So.
And I think the variety is something to point out too, because it's not just folks who want to be investment advisors in financial services. They require quite a bit of IT training. A lot of folks, there's a lot of financial technology now that's incorporated into so much of what they do as part of their business, from robo-advisors to analyzing stocks to other issues. So, I think the investment services area is not just one specific, you're going to have to sell stocks all day long.
That's right. And counting is very big here too.
Huge.
Let me tell you, if you have a accounting background and can mix it also with IT, you've kind of written yourself the golden ticket, let me tell you, because there's not enough people, especially kind of crossover in that area. So.
Yeah, accounting's one that I've heard statistics around our table that somebody could get a job within 24 to 48 hours and maybe have more than one offer.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely, there's, it's the financial services is so broad, and you can really hit a lot of different areas. But Holli, you also touched on IT when you were talking about accounting.
Yeah, so IT, and of course we always think about just kind of pure IT companies, but IT is also one of our fastest growing industry sectors, again, with a 27.5% growth rate over the last 5 years, over 5,000 companies, over close to 55,000 people that are employed in the IT sector. And one of the reasons IT does so well is we have a real knowledge economy here. In almost every industry sector that we have, IT is very integral to each one of those sectors. So IT is really horizontal. It's not just a vertical market. And I think that's why also IT has grown so well here, because it is in everything that we do. I mean, everything from aerospace to financial services to bioscience, and you name it, it's kind of where it's at. And so IT, let me tell you, if you have any IT skills at all, whether it be coding or information systems, any of that, I think, again, is a sure success story for you. I've got a son at a CSU, and he is doing really, really well already. He's got companies asking him for a job, and I know here too, CU's got a fantastic IT program, and I hear the same thing. We're just not even producing enough kids coming out of our colleges that actually can do really well in IT. So we just have to get more and more people getting into it, because there's just not enough bodies.
So maybe we should talk a little bit about looking back at all the different companies that are moving here over time. I think this is a really interesting slide, because often you'd see a slide with logos like these in areas like San Francisco or New York. But no, this is right here in Denver in the metro region. And Holli, you've seen a lot of this transition.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, like we say, there's kind of a roller coasters on certain industry sectors. And it's amazing how, again, we talked about traditional oil and gas. And then you can see through here, look at Vestas and RES and a lot of these kind of clean tech industries. And then we got a lot of growth in the oil and gas again. And then, of course, what you really see, though, is some of these really interesting tech companies and even bioscience. You look at Cochlear that does ear devices, Terumo that does devices for blood. You've got a variety of things. Sharklet, who does a thin film that looks like a shark, a shark skin, and actually works against bacteria. I mean, you've got some amazing stuff there. And then of course Fidelity and Charles Schwab, Redwood Trust. You've got a lot of those types of companies, and then of course in financial services, and then you've got things like telecommunications. Like you've got things like Via West that's really been growing.
The cloud,
exactly.
The cloud,
that too. And then Google, and then of course Comcast has been really growing. They've got several thousand employees here now, and now you go see AstraZeneca. So again, we've really diversified, is what you see here. You've really diversified the industry sectors that we have, and so there's a lot of big names.
And I think if you look at this, you'll see some companies mentioned a couple times, because they come here with one smaller footprint, and then over time they've grown. So
certainly, I was about to say we had discussed this before the webinar started, and I know right downtown, DaVita is a great example of that.
Oh, huge. With
their already very impressive building that exists now, and now they're building right next door one that appears to be about twice the size.
That's right. Correct. And these are, a lot of these are moving their headquarters. We didn't used to have very many headquarters here in Colorado, and we're getting more and more and starting to grow that. And so that's what's exciting too, is we're seeing a lot more regional headquarters here.
Absolutely, and that's something that it's great for the overall economy, because a headquarter location attracts auxiliary businesses that support that company. So that's really a good growth strategy when you get a headquarters town. So we're very excited, I think, about the diversity and the variety that we get here in Colorado for these companies.
That's right. And especially even the entrepreneurial spirit we have here. That's where you're really seeing a lot of growth. I mean, I don't know if it hasn't even actually, I'll see on here, but you've got, Home Advisor and Zillow. And I mean, a lot of those, great companies that you are like every day that we use that are just wouldn't even existed, 5 years ago.
Or Vertifor moved their headquarters from Seattle to Denver. Large insurance software and other software company. I know they're hiring quite a bit downtown right now. So I can't wait to update this slide for 2017 because I think it'll be really exciting.
Yeah.
The logos might get too small, but that's a good problem to have, right?
That's right.
So we always show up in rankings nationally too. So it's not just us saying how great we are here. Other people believe it. And people like Forbes.
Yeah. We're constantly always within the top, 3 of everything from great place to live, do business, IT, most highly educated constantly. Next to Massachusetts, we're always one of the highest educated. Our technology and science index always rate extremely high. So again, this trend just only gets better. So
that's great.
So now we'll go into finding your path. If you guys can provide some insights and what you think our listeners could do to better prepare themselves for, the growth that we've experienced and some of the things that they can capitalize on, and also some of the resources that both of your organizations provide.
Sure. Well, just to jump into financial services, earlier this year we launched a website called Work at Your Peak in Colorado, and it really focuses on that financial or the investment services sector of our economy. And if you go to this website, you'll be able to find resources for schools, for professional development, but also a really unique part of it is we've had direct feeds from some of our largest employers in the region, and they'll be constantly posting jobs there. We're working on this website. It's an evolving website, which will have more information. Maybe we can even talk about putting this webinar up there or something. But it's a great resource that focuses just on investment services. If you want to learn more, I would encourage you to go there. But broader than just investment services.
Yeah, we have a brand new job board. And so this is a fantastic place to go, just talking about local jobs that are available. And again, we have over 3,000 members. And so maybe our members put their job openings and post that on our website. And we also tap into the national market as well, but also statewide. So it's a great place if you're interested in one other place to take a look at what the potential is. I know we have a lot of investment services also listed in this as well.
So Holli, when you talk about how we got here, what would you suggest to alumni or students when they're looking to start or who are in a job search?
Yeah, so what I always say is interview and talk to as many people as you can and talk to your contacts and really network. So what I always tell people is, there's a lot of industry sector associations. There's the chamber, organizations where we just have a high concentration of those companies where you can just do more of those meetups and learn how to network, learn how to, be prepared, have your resume, introduce yourself, and expose yourself to places where you can learn more and bump into people in those industries that you're interested in. And so that's one of the biggest things I tell people. Also, you might also want to build your skills too. So for example, if you've been in an industry and you really want to go kind of in a deeper niche, then what I would say is build that up. For example, like I was talking before, maybe you're going in accounting, but maybe you want to go into some of the information system side too. Build up some of your IT. And so really what it is not to always focus your learning in one very kind of siloed area, but really try to create more of a variety of skills, because you have to be really nimble in this industry. Sure. I mean, in its time when industries are growing and changing so much, you really have to be flexible and really put yourself out there and really skill up.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And, I've had a varied career path, and some things that I found have been useful is always keeping my LinkedIn profile updated. LinkedIn is just such an amazing resource these days, and I think you'll have a webinar later in this series about your social media profiles. But I have found it such a great tool to, as Holly said, set up informational meetings. You know, you can use LinkedIn to search for people who have a background or a job title. And if you think that's interesting, look at how they got there. And it's just such a public resource, which is amazing to me to be able to go and look at someone's company or look at their career and figure out, you know, how'd they get there? And then also it's figuring out the connections with different people. You know, maybe it's through CU alumni that you have a great connection, or your alumni network. If you could see who went to your school and figure out if they have the opportunity to go have coffee and talk to you. But you also have to be prepared. So always make sure that you have that nice updated resume, and you really need to update it and tailor it for the specific job. Just, you know, I think as an employer or someone who has looked at jobs coming in, there's nothing that I hate more than a resume that's not tailored to the position. And it just looks like they've sent out maybe 20 that day and said, I'm good, I'm going to go out and ride my bike. You know, really, looking for a job is as important as having a job. You have to put the same time and effort into that job search. And, you know, as Holly mentioned, there's great job boards out there, keeping your skills sharp. But, you know, the other thing is, I would suggest, too, look around your own companies if you're currently employed. There may be other opportunities, and, you know, have coffee, have lunch with someone in a different department and see if that's something you might want to explore. And that's kind of what I did in the media relations area. And it was really interesting. And, you know, you volunteer to do some different projects. You'll never know what might actually be your next career path.
It's a really good point, because I know a lot of people that have gotten into other positions just by doing job shadowing, you know, or like you said, also just talking to somebody else about, can I just volunteer and do a side project? And so we have a lot of staff on our team that are really interested in certain other areas, and they will volunteer for a project and to get involved in it. And then that really makes them also become more high profile to management in the company too. And that really helps. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I know personally, keeping your LinkedIn profile is kind of a passive thing you can do, but then recruiters. So it's one thing for you to search LinkedIn's database, but recruiters also search LinkedIn databases.
That's right.
So making sure your job title is up to date, making sure your skills are up to date. Go ahead and endorse one of your friends. They might go ahead and endorse you, and it just kind of increases the activity on your profile so it doesn't look stale, so then people see it and it rises to the top. I know the business school itself also has a lot of resources. Alumni, as you may or may not be aware, you always have access to the Business Career Connection Center, headed by Sue Wyman, who will also be hosting one of our future webinars discussing how to get results with your resume. You can please connect with the business school, reach out to us, check our calendar of events. We have a tremendous amount of guest speakers, career fairs, just a number of events, both public facing, that everyone's invited to come and sharpen your skills and kind of get out there. I also want to mention Denver Startup Week is a great way to get out there. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, these companies are out there looking for people to employ. Great networking opportunities.
It is excellent.
And it's free.
And it's free. And it's free. The business school hosted, I don't know what the numbers were this year, thousands of people came through our doors this year, and I know every year they're experiencing growth for Denver Startup Week as a whole, and that's just one great free example of something that you can do to get involved.
That's right. I think they had like 18,000 people come through this last year. Yeah,
It's huge.
Yeah.
Great. So let's see. Do we have any questions out there for our listeners? Or, of course, if anything came up between you two that you wanted to discuss.
Any questions coming in?
So we have one question about the let me see, the Colorado Investment Services Coalition.
Yes.
Can you discuss a little bit more about how they interact with you guys and how they post their jobs and how people can find jobs that are directly related to the investment Services Coalition?
Absolutely. So I should have clarified a little bit. The Colorado Investment Services Coalition is a coalition that I manage at the Denver Metro Economic Development Corporation.
Okay.
So it's one of our industry coalitions. We have one in energy, we have one in the Colorado Space Coalition, and we have one for aviation. So the Colorado Investment Services Coalition itself is the sponsor of the Work at Your Peak website. So if I can go back to that slide real quick for you. The Colorado Investment Services Coalition, they'll feed their jobs through this website. The website, I think we're going to distribute some resources after the webinar,
Correct.
and we'll make sure to include the link to it. But it's workatyourpeakinco.com. And they'll post jobs up there on a regular basis. But of course, some of these members are also included on the chamber job board site. So I think these are two really great resources. The coalition itself works to put on programs at school. I think we have one coming up here at CU Denver in April, where we'll have members of the coalition talk about their job experiences. And they'll also walk through kind of how they got where they are. So stay tuned and make sure you connect with your career services office here that will be sponsoring that seminar in April. Great. Oh, and again, the coalition, I should mention, the members of the coalition also participate each fall in the Colorado Business School Career Fair. So we're all joined together. I think this year was over at Mile High Stadium. So that's only open to students, though, I believe. So sorry, alums. I don't think you can come to that job fair, but it is for more of the internships and entry-level programs into that industry.
So I think we covered this a little bit, but we have one question asking, if you are not a student but already in a career path, what are some of the things you can do to stay up to date on opportunities and resources?
Sure. So some of it, I think, one is in terms of looking at opportunities is we talked before about your LinkedIn profile. I always think that's a great way. In fact, it's interesting because you can also, in terms of also following organizations that are specific in that industry, and you can even post things that you find are interesting in that industry out to other folks that are in LinkedIn, and then people will find your information really interesting, and they'll start to follow you. It's kind of an interesting way to kind of get some more interest. But I think also just researching any kind of seminars, things that are going on. Talk to your advisors at your school, or that you maybe as an alum. You can go ahead and contact them, and they also will tell you some things that are going on in the community. The Denver Metro Chamber and the Metro Denver EDC, we have constantly an events board that talks about all the different things that are going on, in particular topics that might actually interest you too as well. But also reading a lot. I think reading, making sure that you're reading your business journals and all a variety of things to make sure that you see, okay, what's really happening? Because, I mean, that's what we look at every day.
Right.
So what's in the news, what's hot, what's going on? And that'll really kind of keep you up on what's happening. And so, again, it's just really, you're gonna have to really just be aware of everything that's going on in your community.
Or take some time. I find that even though I'm happily employed, very, very happily employed, as I sit next to my COO, I still get these emails on a daily basis from a job board locally. And I'd love to just take a look because it gives you an idea about trends, like who's hiring, what are the new titles? And I think over the past several years, what I've noticed is you see so many more job opportunities for people with the title of digital manager, or it's such, as Holli was mentioning earlier, the IT sector. And you look and you kind of just see those trends, but it's also interesting because I can see when companies are growing. So that's interesting to me. So although I'm not looking for a job, every once in a while I'll just scan some of those job emails just to see, wow, look at that company. They're stepping up. They're hiring 3 positions.
That's right.
It's very interesting. So I think that's helpful.
I think I'm also doing just doing meeting with other CEOs or other managers and other companies too, and just taking them to coffee and just to say, how did you get here? I really kind of admire and kind of following your career, or not to be like creepy or anything, but just following, saying, hey, this is really something that I'd be interested in. And just, it's nice to be able to find a mentor. I think that really helps. If you can find somebody that you really look up to, that an area that you're really looking to grow in a career path, and find a mentor, somebody who's willing to sit down and have coffee with you and help develop the skills so that you can develop goals and how do you get to that next job. And I think that really helps too.
I can't believe we didn't mention that earlier, because I think having the mentors, and I think it's not just one mentor. I have found through my career that I've had several, and at the same time. So I have a nonprofit CEO that I go have coffee or lunch with every once in a while and talk about career paths. I have somebody who's been in my same business who now for over 17 years, she's always my reference, and she's always the person I call and say, what do you think? Do you think this is the right job? Or how do you think I can do this? So, I think that building that mentor network is really helpful. Absolutely.
I'm glad you had mentioned the Denver Business Journal as a resource for people. And it made me think of social media, another use for social media. Obviously, LinkedIn, in addition to just looking at people's CVs and backgrounds, people post and they have blogs. And you can follow the people who are involved in the industry that you are interested in to hear their insights on that. And another pitch for Twitter. I know people just associate Twitter with, politicians and kind of noise, but it's another great free resource that you don't have to tweet to be on Twitter. You can follow these organizations, and they use that as a great vehicle to kind of push messages out.
That's right. Follow us.
Right.
Follow the Denver Chamber.
Follow the Denver Metro Chamber.
So,
follow the Metro Denver EDC.
That's right.
There we go.
So we do have a couple of questions that have come in. One, what would you suggest for those that are over 50 that don't seem to get the same attention as those that are younger or fresh out of school in today's job markets?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I recently had a conversation with a company in this region who talked about how they were looking for some of those mid-career professionals or people who might have been out of the workforce to raise a family, to get them back in because they thought that they would still have that same work ethic. The company is talking about how do we reach that community. So, I think you have to look at industries that might value kind of that mid-level experience. And this company I was talking to was in investment services, where they thought that type of a career seeker would be a good fit for some of their jobs.
Yeah, and I've heard from a lot of companies where they feel like, and if someone like who's more mature, that has a greater amount of experience, also typically when also you're in 50s, which I am one of those, you tend to have more relationships that you've developed out there. You're more connected. So I've seen a lot of folks too where they've totally changed their job, their career path, and have decided to go into like business development for a total different industry because they know so many people and can help that company really grow in the area that maybe they have experience in. So it's, I think it's really just trying to strategically kind of figure out and just talking to companies and saying, are you looking for somebody who has much more experience? And I think that's a lot of it's going to be kind of digging, but you could also help like you said, like other mentors, et cetera, that could help too.
Right. Tap that network and highlight those transferable skills that everyone's really looking for.
That's right.
Another question we have is when companies considering locating to Denver, what are the key skill areas that they're looking for?
Well, I can talk from it depends on the industry, but it seems, as Holly mentioned earlier, whether it's an insurance company, a pharmaceutical company, a financial services, they always ask about the IT software developers. There's such a need with new software that can be customized, like Salesforce. They're wondering, are there developers that can help work on customizing programs or proprietary software that company might be using? I think across the industry, a lot of times people are looking for those types of skills, but it also depends on, it really depends on the industry. I mean, I've talked to agricultural companies that are looking for more manufacturing type work or food companies. if you look at the industry profiles that we've talked about that are on our website, we highlight on those profiles the top job titles for each industry that people are looking for in our region. So you can go to those cluster studies as well and find information on the specific, be it aerospace or energy or health and welfare or health care and wellness.
Yeah, sometimes it's just even going back to school and taking some other classes or getting some other certifications. So those are the kind of things that are really helpful, is getting those other extra little certifications that are specialized in your area. Or again, like Lisa said, something that's going to add on that that really makes you really marketable, where you mixing IT with another technical degree, or maybe sales together with more technical degree. Something that's really going to make you a lot more marketable.
So we had went over the sectors that have experienced the most growth over the past 5 years. Well, what industry or industries do you see experiencing the greatest job growth in the next 5 years?
That's an interesting question. I mean, we're talking a lot, at least in our shop, a lot about mobility. And so there's a lot of some interesting things about how our lives are continuing to change with those fun little mobile devices that we walk around with every day. And I think you're going to continue to see more and more IT, more app development, more specialization in how we make our lives easier. And of course, there's always those interruptive things that are disruptive, I should say, disruptive things that we don't even know is even out there. In 5 years, I mean, all kinds of things can happen that we don't even know about. But I think IT is probably one of the biggest areas that you'll see changing, which means also things like transportation. Think about how Uber has really changed our lives.
So when you talk about IT, I know in earlier conversations you had described yourself as a data geek. And I think we haven't really touched on the impact that big data and data analytics has had across industries. I know the business school is experiencing one of the fastest growth in our business analytics department and the MS degree program that we offer here. So can you talk a little bit about data, big data?
Oh, that's huge.
So I was just with some energy companies and industries the other day talking about where they saw a need for more research and growth, and it is in data, big data analytics, because as Holli said, as we get more and more applications that are measuring every little thing that we can do, you need somebody to analyze all those measurements and take them into actionable steps. So collecting the data is one thing. I think analyzing it and shaping it and then deciding how you can be more productive with that data is really important across industries. It is growing in the energy field. You know, just on the growth idea though, in the areas, I do want to mention that we've been really lucky in Denver, because Denver used to swing on a pendulum up and down on oil prices or natural gas resources, and then it was in telecom and the changes there. But it's really an interesting, when you talk about what might not be the next growth, we've diversified so much that it's nice that we're not impacted by our employment opportunities aren't as impacted as they used to be. So that's, it's hard for me to pull out where's going to be the really biggest growth, because I think we're doing well across the board in some areas.
Yeah. And I think about one of the areas you talk about, analytics, data analytics. I think in bioscience, that's a huge place. You think about how much is changing in medicine, in customized medicine, and you look at what's happening with drug development and some of the biometric stuff. I mean, it's amazing all the things that are going on in the bioscience and medical device side and big data. I mean, I think just about even everything that's going on with DNA analysis. Heck, everybody can spend $99 and find out your whole entire history now. So, and then of course, consumerism is on analytics too, by the way. I mean, everything, and if you're selling anything, those large companies are using data analytics. So.
Sure. Great. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, any other questions that we have? We're coming to the end of our allotted time here.
I thank you so much for talking to Lisa and I, and I think Matt has some things that are coming up.
Yeah,
that will help you even more.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming and spending your time here this afternoon, this lovely Denver afternoon. We do have 3 other webinars in this series coming up. January 18th, Resumes That Get Results. February 23rd, Building Your Personal Digital Brand. And then in March 29th, Networking and Executive Interactions. If you can, please register for these upcoming events at bit.ly/career edge, and then we will send you reminders when those come up. We will be posting this presentation for you to download after we wrap this up, as well as the links that we had mentioned to the various resources that both Holly and Lisa talked about. So again, thank you all for coming, and look forward to
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, and good luck out there.
Yeah, good luck.